Yes, guys, I am taking you through 25 facts that I wish I knew when I first started drafting fantasy football teams for 2020. And I have to say, over the past couple months, my teams have gotten much, much better. The floor on my teams has just gotten safer. The ceiling is remaining nuclear. And it's really because I've collected these 25 facts, and they are exactly player specific. Basically talking about 25 players, if you will, today. And I apply them in every single one of my drafts. So let's just jump right in. The first one is players, plural, specific. But number one, the jump, guys, from year 1 to year 2 for wide receivers. Okay, so we're talking you're a rookie, now you are a second-year wide receiver. That jump produces the biggest gains in routes, expected points, and as a result, PPR scoring of any year leap to leap. So who are some of these players? Fact number 2, Marvin Harrison Jr. saw 116 targets as a rookie. Only 71% of them were catchable. If he and Kyler Murray start connecting, okay, on these targets, he is a top 12 wide receiver in 2025. Can they do it? I hope so. There's evidence to suggest that Kyler Murray can improve. I mean, not for nothing. Last year was his first full season after the ACL. So maybe he's still adjusting, whatever. I'm making excuses for him, if I'm being honest. But I want to, because we're so down on Marvin in 2025 because he didn't return that top 12, top 15 value pick that he was. But if we drafted Marvin, okay, where Rome Odunze was going last year, for example, 9th round, whatever, okay, and he saw these 116 targets and did what he did, we'd be pretty happy. And he most likely would be a wide receiver 2, or a year 2 breakout pick. I do think Murray and Harrison connect in 2025. We've seen Murray connect with Hollywood Brown, with DeAndre Hopkins in the past. Yes, I said Hollywood Brown, but when he was healthy and Kyler was healthy, the both of them, he was a really good top 15 wide receiver for fantasy 2, 3, 4 years ago, whatever it was. Speaking of Rome Odunze, fact number 3, he averaged 94 air yards per game as a rookie. Now he gets Ben Johnson's wide receiver-friendly offense. Now I do think that whoever plays the slot in this offense, Luther Burden, DJ Moore, whoever it is going to be the best option at wide receiver for fantasy, okay? With that being said, Ben Johnson last year, Jamison Williams, and Amaran St. Brown, both of them were top 12 wide receivers for the back half of the season. So even if you're not playing the slot, whatever, he can still produce. Rome Odunze is just as good as these guys who are monster receivers in the NFL already. I'm talking Brian Thomas, Malik Neighbors. Yes, Marvin Harrison. He is just as good as a prospect, as a draft pick, as these guys. Number 4, Keon Coleman, also a second-year wide receiver. He's flashed now, okay? Last year, back-to-back wide receiver 13, so almost wide receiver 1 finishes, but wide receiver 13 2 weeks in a row. Now, what is special about those 2 weeks? It's not box score picking. He literally was only healthy, okay, and only in a full-time role. Both those things were true only twice last year. Healthy in a full-time role happened in 2 games last season. Wide receiver 13 in both those games for fantasy football. I get it's only 2 games, but it was after the integration period in the NFL for these rookies. I forget what exact weeks it was. I think it was like 8 or 9, but it was right before he got injured. He was just starting to produce and then got injured. So he's another second-year receiver I'm keeping my eye on. I'll give you 2 more. Ricky Pearsall, fact number 5. He finished his rookie season last year with a wide receiver 8 finish in 1 week and a wide receiver 14 finish in 1 week, the final 2 weeks of the season. He's now returning, obviously, thinned out wide receiver room for the 49ers. Ricky Pearsall is my pick to be the next Jackson Smith-Njigba, okay? Going around the same place in drafts, 90th overall, 100th overall, 85th, whatever it is, in drafts, as JSN, both first-round prospects, both uncertainty in the wide receiver room. Everyone's unafraid to say they can do it. Last year I told you, JSN would be a top 15 wide receiver. I was totally right about that. He was my number 1 sleeper, my number 1 pick at the wide receiver position. And it's looking right now like Pearsall is that guy for me. So we will see. Juwan Jennings injured with the calf strain. Brandon Ayuk not ready to go. All right? So we will see. We shall see. Fact number 6, another second-year wide receiver, Xavier Worthy. A lot of people don't realize how good he was in the NFL playoffs for the Chiefs. Big reason Xavier Worthy that the Chiefs made the Super Bowl. And weeks 15 through 17 in the fantasy football playoffs. 21 fantasy points per game. Locked in as a Chiefs starting wide receiver. Marquise Brown, is injured. I actually think Xavier Worthy might have a concussion right now, but he's fine. He will be there for week 1. Okay? So it's really like Rashee Rice, who's getting suspended, Kelsey, who's 46 years old. Xavier Worthy could just be the bona fide locked-in target number 1 for Mahomes. If that's the case, top 10 wide receiver is not out of the ceiling or out of the picture for him, for Xavier Worthy. Okay, number 7, kind of getting away from these second-year breakout candidates at wide receiver, but staying with wide receivers. Some are rookies, whatever. This guy is a rookie. Fact number 7, Emeka Egbuka is only one of 2 Ohio State wide receivers with multiple 1,000-yard season, and he's poised to be the future of the Bucs offense. So Chris Godwin had another undisclosed kind of hidden ankle surgery. We don't love that this offseason. He's not practicing right now. Mike Evans, another year older. Jalen McMillan is not as good at football as Emeka Egbuka. Okay, so right now, he is the wide receiver 2. Baker can support 2 top 24 wide receivers, if not 3. So Egbuka's a guy you got to be targeting in like the 8th round. It's not too early for him. Speaking of 8, the number 8, fact number 8, Keandre Lambert-Smith, talk about a deep sleeper, is dominating the Chargers, the Los Angeles Chargers training camp. And what's interesting about him is that his combine speed was 4.37. Okay? Top 5 SEC receiving season. Keandre Lambert-Smith, guys, in 2023, lead wide receiver for the Penn State Nittany Lions. So a real deep sleeper, but I do view the wide receiver 2 role on the Chargers as open. Quentin Johnston is not the guy. He's okay for fantasy. You can do worse at the flex position. Kind of reminds me of a Josh Palmer, right? Trey Harris just drafted, I believe, in the 2nd round, but it looks like Lambert-Smith right now is doing better than Harris in camp. So keep your eye on that wide receiver 2 role. If Keenan Allen goes to the Chargers, KLS bets might be off, but I'll keep you updated on that. Fact number 9, another freak of nature here, deep sleeper, Dante Thornton, one of 3 wide receivers ever to be 6'4" or taller and run a sub 4.35 40-yard dash. The other 2 are Megatron, also known as Calvin Johnson, and DK Metcalf. So this is good athletic company to be in. Thornton is cooking the Raiders camp right now. It's basically like Bowers or Thornton with these deep bombs. It's looking, like I said, pretty Calvin Johnson-esque. So we shall see. We shall see. Fact number 10, staying on the wide receiver train, staying in the AFC West, Courtland Sutton, early candidate for my guy, averaged 18 fantasy points and 9+ targets per game after the Broncos bye last season, and he's projecting for wide receiver numbers in 2025. What I mean by that, he's projecting, guys, for 10+ targets per game in my projections. 100% of wide receivers who hit that mark, okay, last year finished top 15 at the position. Believe it actually might be top 12. So if Sutton's getting 10 targets a game, plays 15, whatever games, he's going to be a locked-in wide receiver 1, currently still going in round 5 of drafts. Fact number 11, George Pickens, guys, is escaping the Arthur Smith QB purgatory. He is the best QB of his career in Dak Prescott. He has the most wide receiver-friendly offense of his career in the Dallas Cowboys. I think George Pickens might just erupt in Dallas. The Cowboys have ranked top 10 in total wide receiver fantasy points in 5 of the last 6 seasons. They can absolutely support both Pickens and CeeDee Lamb as 2 top 12 wide receivers. They really can. That duo is going to rival Higgins and Chase for the best wide receiver duo in the league. There's no run game in Dallas. Maybe there will be eventually a rotation, but nothing crazy. Okay, there's no prime Ezekiel Elliott. Parsons is leaving the defense most likely. It's looking that way right now. Defense is getting worse. This team might have to put up 40 points a game, and Pickens will be a big part of that. Fact number 12, Jacoby Myers saw 9+ targets per game last year, now gets a major QB upgrade in Geno Smith. Now, when your former QB is my mailman and the person checking me out at CVS when I refuse to use the self-checkout machine, yes, Geno Smith is an upgrade over these guys, okay? At QB. I literally can't even name the QBs. That's how far removed from my life they are. So, 9+ targets per game and 15 games played. Every single receiver who hit that mark last year finished top 15, okay? Besides Jacoby Myers. So yes, Geno Smith is an upgrade. Let's move along here to the running backs. And fact number 13, if we're talking running backs, best guy to start with, is probably the best one at the position. Fact number 13, Bijan Robinson hit top 12 running back RB1 rate of 83% in his last 12 games. 10 out of 12 games, he was an RB1 his most recent 12 games. That is the best in the league. The next closest, Jir Gibbs at 69%. Very nice, but not as good as 83%. And Bijan Robinson's floor is exactly why he is the RB1 and my 101 in 2025, alongside Jamar Chase, who plays wide receiver, obviously. Fact number 14, Amaran Hampton has 3,100 plus yards and 30 touchdowns in his last 25 games. Think about what I just said. Do the math. No, seriously, do the math. So 3,100 yards, let's say that, in his last 25 games. So that's over 100 all-purpose yards per game, and 30 touchdowns, over 1 touchdown per game in his last 25 games. 3-down workhorse, 300 touches in back-to-back years. Absolute workhorse. So if Najee Harris struggles to get on the field, pulls a Gus Edwards from 2024, Amaran Hampton, guys, already ranked top 12 of the position for me. Might just keep moving up to top 10 there. Speaking of split backfields or backfields with a little bit of nuance to them, fact number 15 here is that Zach Charbonnet was actually as good as Saquon Barkley last year when he was the starter. He averaged 21.2 fantasy points per game. It's exactly what Barkley averaged last year across the whole season. And that's because he got 20-plus touches per game. Zach Charbonnet did as a starter in Seattle when Walker was banged up. Spoiler alert, Walker is already hurt. He is literally already hurt. It is August 4th. It is the evening of August 4th. He is already hurt. So, Charbonnet is a must draft late in drafts. I do like Walker. I do like him in the 4th, but he's not going to enter the 3rd round like Hampton's going to. Okay. Fact number 16, kind of stay with these split backfields here. Cam Scataboo was the only 2024 college running back with 1,000 plus rush yards and 500 plus receiving yards. And now he's fighting for this Giants RB1 job. He has a bit of a hamstring injury right now. I do think Tyrone Tracy opens the season as the lead Giants running back, but eventually, 6-7 games into the season, I know it kind of sounds like a lot, but guys, when it's week 8 and like you're halfway through the year, getting ready for playoffs, and Scataboo is breaking out, okay? I recently drafted a team where Scataboo was my RB3, and my RB2 was Caleb Johnson. So I had to get rid of one of them. Ended up trading Scataboo straight up for Ramondre Stevenson and some fab. Doesn't sound super sexy, but I needed a player to play. Okay, I think Stevenson, similar to Tyrone Tracy, similar to Jalen Warren, guys like that are going to start the season getting 12, 13, 14, 15 opportunities per game as the starter. But then eventually, yes, Scataboo, Henderson, Johnson are going to overtake these players. And there's nothing wrong with understanding that and playing the game. All right. Fact number 17, if we're talking about better running backs in the backfield, is Tai Spears. Averaged 20.7 fantasy points, weeks 15 through 17. That's the fantasy football playoffs. He was a top 5 running back during that span. Only guys like Jir Gibbs, Jonathan Taylor, Bucky Irving were better than him. He produced RB1 numbers every single time he was given 50% plus snaps last year. Only happened in 3 games, fantasy playoffs. But a lot of people don't realize that Tai Spears, guys, younger than Pollard, more explosive than Pollard, better pass catcher than Pollard, smaller than Pollard, okay? But yes, does things that produce fantasy points a little better than Tony Pollard, in my opinion. We talked about Henderson before, okay, and Ramondre, but fact number 18 is that Trevon Henderson was the only rookie running back with 1,000 plus rush yards, 200 plus receiving yards, and 7 yards per carry last year. By the way, show me a video of Trevon Henderson losing a fumble. You can't. 0 fumbles on almost 700 college career touches. What is the main problem with Ramondre Stevenson? He fumbles. He's already doing it in training camp. So like I said, Henderson, if we're comparing him to Johnson and Scataboo, I think Henderson takes over quicker. We're going back to my trade from before. I literally need like 3 weeks out of Ramondre to see if Warren or Caleb Johnson's better. And we'll make some trades, so don't go crazy on me there. All right? Fact number 19 is that Chase Brown of the Bengals averaged 20.6 fantasy points per game and 85% plus snaps as a Cincinnati running back 1 last year. He is a dark horse contender for RB1 overall. Led the position as the starting running back in Cincinnati in targets per game, 6 targets per game. That's the exact same number as DK Metcalf had in that span and Terry McLaurin had in that span. Oh yeah, Chase Brown is running the ball 20 times too. Okay, so you understand what type of player this is. It's like a McCaffrey light. It's like a low-calorie McCaffrey. Chase Brown is. Fact number 20. Speaking of elite running backs, Devonta Ahan leads all running backs in points per touch, fantasy points per touch over the last 2 years. 22.6 fantasy points per game with Tua in 2024, was best among all running backs. So when Tua's healthy, Devonta Ahan is in the mix for best running back in fantasy. They try to get the ball out of Tua's hands quickly. Oftentimes, Ahan is the main beneficiary of that quick play style. They snaps it, whips it to Ahan, and he's gone 100 yards down the field. We've seen it like 10 times, all right? Speaking of guys who can crib it, let's talk about fact number 21. This running back led all running backs in explosive run rate, which is a very telling metric for fantasy points the following season, okay? He also led all running backs in points, fantasy points per touch in 2024. And that is Jir Gibbs. In 2024, 1.07 fantasy points per touch. That is the exact same number as 2023 Christian McCaffrey when he had almost 400 points, over 100 points between him and the next running back on the list that season. Pretty interesting. Jir Gibbs is now said to be the focal point of this new Lions offense with no Ben Johnson. Yes, so Jir Gibbs is a top 3 player for me. Bijan, Jamar, and Gibbs. I have them all in the same tier. I'm most likely taking the former 2 over Gibbs, but there's going to be some times where I go Gibbs over Jamar. All right? Kind of going to shake it up here with these last couple facts. Coming in at number 22, Ben Sonat. Now you might be like, who is Ben Sonat? Exactly. You were not expecting that at fact number 22. He is the second-year tight end in Washington. Now, Zach Ertz might be older than might be older than Travis Kelce. And Kelsey's like 53. So I gotta figure that one out. But even Zach Ertz, guys, finished last year a top 10 tight end, maybe even top 8. I think he was tight end 7. And Sonat just is like a young tight end who is better at everything that's required from tight ends than Ertz. So monitor that situation. He really is a sleeper tight end for me, Ben Sonat. Not a lot of true sleepers. I like Chig Okonkwo, Sonat, Brenton Strange. Those are some names I'm targeting late, okay? Bo Nix coming in at fact number 23. Bo Nix, my QB6. My QB6 this year. Averaged 21.4 fantasy points over his last 10 starts. When I watch him play, he reminds me of prime Russell Wilson. Bo Nix, I should say like first, second, third year Russell Wilson with the Seahawks. The moon balls, the scrambling, okay? You can't tackle him. The bombs down the field. The composure really reminds me of Russell, who had a handful of nice fantasy football finishes there. Did Russell Wilson when he was cooking, all right? Like I said, 21.4 fantasy points over his last 10 games. Bo Nix, clear QB1 for fantasy. And he's going like the 7th, 8th, 9th round. Him, Kyler Murray, those two guys I think are undervalued in drafts. I'm targeting them every time. Back to the running back position, sort of a random fact here, but Kyle Monangai is a name that I want you to know. Same with Roschon Johnson, same with DeAndre Swift, but Monangai is the cheapest of the three Chicago running backs. The reason they're relevant, okay, is because in Ben Johnson's offense, who's coming over from Detroit as the head coach now for the Bears, but when he was the OC with Detroit, we've heard of David Montgomery and Jir Gibbs, right? Well, they were both so good because there were 35 opportunities to the running backs. 35 per game to the running back. So if Monangai just beats out Roschon Johnson for that second job, and by the way, Monangai's loved right now in camp, and there's a little bit of tea between Ben Johnson, DeAndre Swift. I think he's a very deep sleeper, Monangai. All he has to do is beat out that second string running back. He could be looking at about 10 opportunities per game. They got a good offensive line now, better for pass blocking, but still good for run blocking. He is a deep, deep sleeper. And finally, guys, fact number 25. If you guys are not subscribed, what are you doing? Okay, subscribe to the No Expert FF Discord, link in bio. Given a 50% discount at this time. Check it out, link in bio, guys. Ask me any fantasy football question you have. Now, during the season, off-season, dynasty rebuilds, literally anything. Craft a custom draft strategy for me. Check in these strategies online. No one has your exact league settings. Join the Discord, ask me the questions. I will make a league-winning team with you. Hope you enjoyed.